kinds of combo game where a lot of creature decks really don't have the combo game like he did.
Right.
Here we have, it looks like two pretty generic lists. We have Rug Delver with Spell Pierce and Bolts and Chain Lightning and Brainstorm and Daze and Delvers and one Snapcaster for flavor. And then on Sneak and Show we have the Huge here. And it looks like they're getting started.
Yeah, Tom leads on a Ponder off of Basic Island. Doesn't give away too much there.
Now, the matchup here, I think, might be in favor of Rug Delver. They have a lot of disruption, and they have the fastest clock that you can have with that much disruption.
Yeah, not only that, I think, you know, Sneak and Show's been around for a while. Rug Delver was, you know, a strong deck, probably the best deck not too long ago in a field that had Sneak and Show.
Right.
So Rug Delver is a good deck.
The only weak card I see, and it's not even weak, I think Stifle, a lot of times Stifle's been in and out of the Rug Delver decks,
Yes,
and a lot of people play more Spell Pierces or Daze or something like that. It looks like it's 3 days, 3 Spell Pierce, shaving off from them, and then we have Stifle here. Stifle can do some things. You can stifle like a Grizzlebrand 7. You can stifle a Annihilator 6.
Yeah,
it's not. I can stifle.
appealing, yeah.
Stifle a sneak attack activation. Obviously, the only thing you're really stifling this matchup, or any matchup for that matter, is you want to get one of those fetch lands.
Right. Nice little way to. It's a little 1-mana Stone Rain. So Eric had a turn 1 Delver to match Tom's turn 1 Ponder, and Tom follows it up with a second turn Ponder. Passes back to Eric. Eric would like those Ponders so he can flip his Delver, but so far no good.
Right, and here's a fetch land from Eric. The clock right now is a 1/1, but of course Rug Delver has the ability to he might just slam a Tarmogoyf here, and then next turn if the Delver flips, or even if it doesn't, Eric can begin to fill his graveyard up with nice goodies, bolts, counter magic to kind of meddle in Tom's chances. So he plays a second Delver, and this signifies, signals to Tom maybe he has a Spell Pierce open at least. So Tom,
Stifle.
Right, so Tom can't go for a Show and Tell here unless he has backup, but you definitely can't just afford to toss your Show and Tell in the yard at the expense of one Spell Pierce.
Yeah, see, he cracks the fetch. He kind of pauses there when he's a crack a fetch land. Is that cool?
Right, and you notice the lands he's getting too.
Yes.
All basics to avoid the Wasteland setup.
Yeah.
Eric, of course, packing 4 Wastelands, just like every Rug Delver deck out there. That's really how they win most of their games, is by mana deprivation.
Yeah, they're very good at that. Not only are they good at doing it to their opponents, but they're good at living through it when someone does it to them.
Right. They can live off 1 or 2 land easily.
Exactly. So a third Ponder. Tom with triple Ponder for his first 3 plays of the game, and this one he shuffles away.
I saw Sneak Attack in there. I don't know what else I saw. He might already have one of those those cards, and maybe he's looking for the actual creature. I haven't got a good look at Tom or Eric's hand. They keep it on the table while they're not thinking. When they're thinking, it's been pretty close. So let's see if we can get a peek at it, so we can give you a little more in-depth analysis here. Let's see. So he draws. All right. So I see
like
2 Ancient Tombs, Sneak Attack, Force of Will, Show and Tell. I think another Force of Will. So he has no dude to put into play yet. He is looking for one of those 4 Emeralds or one of those 4 Grizzlebrands.
In the meantime, Eric can't seem to flip those Delvers. Again, they're just 1/1s.
All right,
and he's finally going to cast a Ponder of his own, and that's likely going to help the cause.
The old standard for fashion way to do it.
Oh yeah. So I believe he found a spell.
Who misses that interaction, huh? Delver and Ponder and Standard. I'm sure a lot of you guys wish you could do that.
The good old days.
The good old days, yeah. So he draws here. You can't really draw your best card here because a lot of times you got to keep that instant on top. So you might have drawn, even a land here. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what those top 3 cards are. If one of those is an instant, you leave it on top. You have 2 Delvers in play. Those have to flip now, or Eric's going to have too short of a clock to kind of beat Tom.
All right, Tom's turn. He plays another basic land, Basic Island, and it's just Show and Tell, Force.
Tom should have played the Ancient Tomb to be able to Force a Will the hard way. I mean, I don't see him doing that, but if he might, if he wants to force maybe a Tarmogoyf to live a full turn extra. But we'll see what happens.
Looks like he just doesn't want to put it out there in front of the potential wasteland.
That makes sense too. It's safe. I think Tom has to rip a Grizzlebrand here to win, or a Emrakul, because what's going to happen here is Tom's going to have to play around Spell Pierce, which he can easily do with the Ancient Tomb, and he has Force Will backup, so he's got the tools.
He just doesn't have the threat.
He just needs the threat.
So as you can see, the Delvers did flip this turn off of a Ponder, which Eric is currently in the midst of resolving. And he finds a Nimble Mongoose to add to the force there, and Tom Nelson's facing almost lethal.
Against Rug Delver, I'd give that lethal. Definitely.
Technically,
with all,
I mean, there's no
damage.
threshold at the moment.
Oh, that's 7 damage. Yeah, with the bolt, that's 10.
Yeah.
I see he has 6 bolts main deck, so I would assume if I was Tom that I have to win now. Here comes the
does
sneak
play the
attack.
Ancient Tomb. He's going to play Sneak Attack with the Ancient Tomb up. Play around Spell Pierce.
Yeah, I don't think he can even afford to take the 2 here. All right, well, Sneak Attack is going to get...
It's going to get Spell Pierce. It's going to force him to take the 2. It's basically a shock.
I like that play.
Here, I like it too.
Also puts him at 4 cards in the graveyard. Pretty close to getting to Threshold. I think Tom realizes that, you know, he can sit there with all his mana open and bluff, but that doesn't do anything. So he's gonna Spell Pierce it. I think if I'm Tom, I let the Spell Pierce counter it, because you have a Show and Tell, which if you draw your Grizzlebrand, that counteracts any attacking lethal damage that comes creature-wise. Let's see, if he pays it, he goes to 8. Takes 7, goes to 1. And then he can't Force a Will a Bolt, so he dies to Bolt. So now he put himself in the position where if Eric has a Bolt, he can't even Force a Will to save his own life.
I think if I were Tom, I may have maybe last turn gone with a Show and Tell, and to either one, just kind of make Eric counter it, right? You think maybe rip a counter spell or something out of Eric's hand. Or if it resolves, you put the Sneak Attack into play.
Yeah, I agree with that play, absolutely. I think, well, you see what Tom just did here. He did Force a Will, which put him to 7, exactly lethal. I think he just realized the force point there is didn't.
Yeah. So
even without Threshold, it didn't matter.
That's that's it. So yeah, I think there was a kind of a handshake, and then he realizes, wait, I have more games I can play.
Usually it's kind of the flustered, man, yeah, you got me kind of thing.
Yeah.
I agree. I would have played the Show and Tell. I mean, I wouldn't have, but I think your play is the right line there, because at worst he counters it and wastes a load of cards on it, or at best, you know, he wastes, you know, just makes you play a Sneak Attack and play, and that's pretty much the same thing.
Right. It might have not resulted in any difference for the match, because obviously he needed a threat. He never saw one. We assume his last draw wasn't even a threat.
It was a Lotus Petal.
Okay, so yeah, he didn't actually have anything to attack with, but I like the, you know, he has double Show and Tell, so he can afford to waste one, and if it gets countered, he just traded it for a counter spell, which, you know, hopefully won't be there when, you know, if he were to later draw into a threat and try to resolve the second Show and Tell. Also, if it does resolve, you just put the Sneak Attack into play.
Yeah.
Now you've got sneak Attack and Show and Tell in your hand, so you're in good shape if you actually do draw a threat, which you need anyway. If you weren't going to draw a threat, you were just going to die anyway.
I think Tom was, like you said, he was 1 win condition away from victory there, because he had enough mana to avoid all those dazes and Spell Pierces with the Show and Tell, and he had Force to back it all up anyway. So, but this is the problem with these combo decks. It's a 2-card combo deck. Having 1 card and a bunch of cantrips, you hope you can get to the second piece. You brainstorm, ponder all day, but, you know, it's up to the old shuffling gods there, see if it can rise to the top. So sideboard, it looks like Tom is going to bring in the usual anti-hate cards. He might bring in Flusterstorm. He could bring in Echoing Truth. It really depends on if he thinks his opponent is going to bring in. All right, we'll have to read a card again.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, he's making it. Okay, so Eric has a joke card in the sideboard. I guess he's decided he doesn't need to play full 15.
Don't say it. I'll let Shoebox put it up.
All right, go ahead and put this card up. There's one of these in Eric's sideboard.
You guys can take a look at it.
I want you kind of Twitter audience. I want you to tell me how powerful this card is in Legacy. But go ahead and buy them all up when you see it on the screen, because
there it is, cooperation.
It could warp the format, and you don't want to be that clown who didn't jump on the Tarmogoyf train when it was going up. So here's cooperation
from Ice Age. It's an enchant creature, so it's an aura, and an enchanted creature gets banding. So
maybe it's for elves, because look, the elves train our healers. So maybe in the flavor text, maybe the elves are what make this card good in the sideboard. What do you think?
Might be. He brings it in for elves, probably.
Yeah, banding is a kind of. I'm just gonna stop there. Now let's go back to the sideboard.
So just so you know, any creatures with banding and up to one without banding can attack in a band. Bands are blocked as a group, and if any creatures with banding a player controls are blocking or being blocked by a creature, that player divides that creature's combat damage, not its controller, among any other creatures being blocked by or is blocking. You got that right?
I got that. Okay. What I got is that Eric Rill made me lose about 60 seconds of my life. So
yeah, that was about a minute and a half, I think.
Yeah, so it's fun. He got what he wanted. He's on camera, and he got to play a silly card. So on the serious cards on this board, he has 1 Surgical Extraction, probably should be 2, minus the cooperation. He's got 2 Tormod's Crypts, Injury Explosive, Scavenging Ooze, Submerge, Pyroblast, Fire Spout, Spell Pierce. So obviously the Spell Pierce comes into play. Pyroblast is pretty good too. I would definitely bring in the Surgical to go with countering one of his combo cards, and hitting with a Surgical is a really nice 1-2 punch. All those cards are good. But back to Tom's, he definitely needs to also bring in Flusterstorm to kind of combat the counter magic.
Right, just cheap. He needs cheap counter spells to deal with Eric's cheap threats. So he can go with even Flusterstorm and Pyroblast.
Right. Well, and Pyroblast. What's Pyroblast stopping Eric's deck?
Well, it's mainly stopping the counter spells.
Right, just the counter spells. So I like all the Pyroblast too.
You have Force of Will.
Do you think he doesn't leave Stifle in here, does he? I can't assume.
I can't imagine he leaves Stifle in.
Like a lot of these players, Rug Delver, I've talked to a few, especially players in my area. They really love Stifle, and they get against decks with fetch lands. They just never board it out.
You might be right. I mean, I guess he could stifle the sneak attack trigger, but that's
I don't like it though.
Really not
like
that. That's like, I don't know. It's such a narrow situation. You've got like otherwise dead card. Why don't you just have something that can keep the sneak attack from ever hitting the board?
See old magic Hail Mary there. I don't like it. So Tom on the play gets Basic Island, dodges Stifle, dodges Wasteland because he's on the play. And I think Eric, he has his hand about as far back as humanly possible.
Yeah.
It's not even in the room. So the chances of us seeing Eric's hand this game are about 0. We couldn't see it game 1. We're not going to be able to see it this game. Unless you get a little birdie to tell him to, tell him to...
Put your hand in view of the camera.
Slightly view of the camera, because look how far back it is. It's just even when he's shuffling, it's hard to see what he's doing there.
Yeah. So Tropical Island into Nimble Mongoose for Eric Rill. Passes back to Tom Nelson, who draws his card. And
right, now Tom is off camera too.
That's just.
It's kind of like it feels like they're reaching back into oblivion and pulling a card, a spell from the heavens, and then dropping it onto the board, and it's not really coming from a hand.
They're trying to give us the real feel of like planeswalkers summoning creatures. Now you don't want to see their actual physical arms moving around, right?
Right.
So actually, a ponder on turn 2 from Tom.
It's actually just makes me want to go over there and say something, but we're gonna keep it civil, and we're gonna watch these guys play.
I think Jesse might be going over to ask them to.
We have a bouncer heading over there to rough both players up. I hope, let them know to keep their hands. At least we don't want to, you don't have to lay it out telepathy style, but it'd be nice to give the viewers at home and us a little bit more viewing ability.
I don't think that's where he went.
All right, so we are going to be.
We're out of luck. But here, just from Twitter, Chris Nolte mentions about stifling Gristlebrand as well, like the activation. So
I mentioned that game 1.
Yeah,
I mentioned that game 1.
Did mention that. But yeah, that's a good one.
I think that's weak as well because 1, they have a Grizzlebrand player.
Yeah.
2, Grizzlebrand has lifelink; he can just attack on its own. But Chris is right. If Tom is just playing it and then drawing 7 off the bat, going to 2 or something, thinking he's going to be able to attack, and then he gets lightning bolted, that would be a disaster.
Yeah. All right, so a ponder from Eric. A lot of pondering going on in this match. Eric was out pondered last game, but he had enough to flip his Delvers, and that's all that mattered.
All right, I think I saw a magic card in Eric's hand. Oh,
yeah, probably a Delver of Secrets, which you just played. Yeah.
I saw
so Nimble
Delver
Mongoose
of
gets in for
Secrets.
1. Delver of Secrets comes down.
I saw Flooded Strand.
And we know that
Got
Eric just pondered, so it's likely that Delver flips on the next upkeep.
Okay, so Tom here is going to be... his opponent's tapped out, which means nothing in Legacy. It means they can't Spell Pierce, but he can Daze. I think here this is 4, the Sneak Attack.
Looks like it could be Sneak Attack.
All right, so see, Daze here would be... Yeah, that's a Flood Strand. I saw that one.
There we go.
There's
so
the
here's
Daze
returning an island.
Here's a
And Tom
Force.
says Simeon Spirit Guide. No, he's got Force of Will removing Wipe Away.
Oh man, and if this resolves, Eric is in a world of hurt. Oh, and then a second Daze. And
2 days.
That's a reason why when you're playing a deck like Sneak and Show, you have Lance Attack for double. You need to actually wait a little bit and make sure you have the appropriate weaponry before you just drop it there.
So Delver flipped off of a Force of Will, and Eric successfully Armageddoned there, but he's got 2 threats on board with looks like 4 cards in his graveyard right now. Not going to take too long to get another couple in there. So there's looks like 5, not threshold.
Does he have a blue
yet.
card to go to that Force? We need to see if we can.
I'm not sure. He did just use double Daze, so he may not have an extra card to pitch to Force. But as you can see, the Delver alongside Nimble Mongoose still doing some damage. And
Tom looks very frustrated. I think he realizes it's okay to wait against Delver. Like
he was forever, but
but definitely you wait. You definitely don't get hit by Daze when they're tapped out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the one card you play around. Spell Pierce happens, but they need 1 open. When they're tapped out, you got to assume the only reason Eric confidently is tapping out to go ponder Nimble Mongoose or to ponder Delver is because he has a Daze at least.
So.
When my opponent in the finals of the Legacy Open had died game 1, he died with 2 Dazes in his hand because I'd rather sit there and take a beating than allow him the satisfaction of Force Spiking me.
So a Brainstorm from Eric, and then an attack with obviously the Mongoose and the Delver.
Here comes
gonna knock Tom to
Sneak
4,
Attack, which tapped out. Not sure. I think he's just accepting his inevitable doom. Yeah.
And there it is. Eric Rill has did keep in the Stifles, at least some amount, because he just removed 1 to Force of Will to deal with that Sneak Attack that Tom played, the second copy of Sneak Attack. So Tom unable to resolve it.
And I actually don't. I think Stifle is the only bad card in his deck. I'm surprised he kept it in.
I agree. I don't like Stifle.
On the play, you can argue. On the play, you can argue. You can hit a fetch land. But don't you think it's a little curious if a Delver player plays a land, says go, turn 1? Usually it's a Ponder, Delver, or Nimble Mongoose.
So many 1-drops, you're unlikely to be leaving mana up on turn 1.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, the Sneak and Show deck from moxmania.com apparently unable to perform on camera, unfortunately, for these guys. Trying to put up a fight, but just can't seem to pull it off. Although we did have the turn 1 win in the first match.
30-second or 51-second game. Like I said earlier, Eric Rill has the advantage in this match, or had the advantage in this match from the get-go, because when you look at a deck like this, there are no dead cards. And when you look at a Stoneblade deck, how many dead cards are there against combo? You got Swords, you have Lingering Souls, it's not too great. You got Supreme Verdict, maybe a 1-of. In this matchup, Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning are not dead cards.